Hey, everybody, welcome back to the show. Really excited to be here with my good friend, Jon Nolen, today. And he's a super smart guy. We're going to be talking about systems and processes for your real estate investing business. And having, surrounded myself with really hundreds of top real estate investors, it's very clear to me that the people that do the best in life are really operate like a real business, right? With systems, processes, tools. And I'm not, well, we're going to talk about some tools, but not just systems as in software. We'll talk about that, but also just processes you need to have for everything in your business so that you can pull yourself out of the business. Because for a lot of us, there's too much in our heads and not documented processes that you could hand somebody else a guide and say, here's exactly how we do this, right? So really excited to talk about that today with Jon. Professional real estate investors know that it's not really about the real estate. In fact, real estate is just a vehicle to freedom. A group of over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors from across the country meet several times a year at the Investor Fuel Real Estate Mastermind to share ideas on how to strengthen each other's businesses, but also to come together as friends and build more fulfilling lives for all of those around us. On today's show, we're going to continue our conversation of fueling our businesses and fueling our lives. I'm glad you're here. Hey, Jon, how are you, buddy?
Doing well yourself, Mike.
I'm good. Good to see you. I feel like I see you more than most of my own family members, to be honest with you. So, but excited to be doing life with you and excited to have you on the show again. I know it's been several years since you've been on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, it's been a couple weeks since we saw each other in Phoenix, right?
Yeah, like a week and a half or something. So, hey, I know you really well, but why don't you tell folks that are listening right now a little bit about your background?
Short version. Spent time in the United States Marine Corps, about 5 years. Seems like a lifetime ago now. And then went into IT. Spent quite a while in IT. Was the vice president of IT for a pharmacy software company, and eventually made what seems like an odd transition into real estate, but needed more flexibility with my time. Was already working in real estate some, and just decided to make it a full-time gig about 6 years ago.
Okay. And you operate up in Oklahoma City market?
Yep, here in Oklahoma City. My wife left her W-2 job 3 or 4 years ago, and we run it well with the two of us and our team here.
Yeah, there's no turning back now, right?
Nope.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, we're going to be talking about systems and processes, and sometimes people are confused by like, what kind of system are you using? So I want to kind of first talk about tools, like key tools that you use in your real estate investing business, and a little note to some of you guys. Jon and his wife have been building a CRM for real estate investors that's going to be launched here sometime soon. And again, as a real estate guy that came out of IT, you know that he thinks a lot about this stuff. I know part of your pain was thinking about what's possible instead of what's available, right? I mean, there's a lot of CRMs on the market these days, but I'm sure that just like a lot of entrepreneurs, you were thinking about how you could do it better, right?
Yeah, and that's where it originally came from, and really started with me just wanting to improve what we could do and fill the gaps that we have and the voids that we have, and make things more flow better. Yeah. But realized it was going to be very well suited. There was a lot of holes for other people, and so that's where we're going with that. But systems are important, no matter what software you're using or what tools you're using. Systems and processes are so vital, no matter what business you're in. But especially with ours, where there is a large commitment. If you're, advertising, if you're working with sellers, you need to convert as many leads as you can, and systems and processes are how you do that.
Yeah, for sure. That's how you operate like a real business, for sure. And that's how. Yeah. It takes so much. I mean, there's so many things that we do. I've been doing this for almost 15 years now. I mean, there's so many things that we do now that are automated that used to be super manual. It's like it used to take a person for that, and now a system does it without anybody thinking about it, right? And I guess we could all say that in all parts of our life, not just real estate. Like just how easy it is to order stuff off of Amazon, for example, is like, it used to be I have to run to the store and they're out of it, and I got to run to another store, and now Amazon can deliver it to my house within a day, right? So. Yep. Well, let's jump into kind of tools, like key tools that you use in your business right now. And so I know for a lot of folks use a CRM. You should certainly use a CRM, which is kind of the operating system. That's kind of the backbone of your business, right? So talk a little bit about the CRM component of your business.
Yeah, CRM is vital. It doesn't matter so much which CRM you use, and there's lots of good CRMs, like you said earlier. But your CRM will be basically your repository, your record of everything dealing with your sellers. Um, if you're if you wholesale, you need to have a CRM for your buyers as well. A lot of people leave that out and just take that for granted. But it keeps track of everything. You want as much information in there as you can that will be usable. You don't want stuff that you're never going to use, but being able to have information about the properties is very important. It will help you later. Okay, do I really need to focus on this zip code? Do I need to focus on this age of house? Because what you think you are buying or what you think you're actually getting responses from is usually different from what it actually is.
Yeah.
And so having a CRM outside of staying in contact with the sellers and buyers, the CRM will keep all that information for you. So you have a lot of analytics and you can make smarter decisions.
That's the big thing. And we talked about this a lot at the last Investor Fuel. We're really putting a lot of focus on trying to help our members just become better operators, because that really, to me, and we saw during this last little shake, this little downturn in the market here, of who got, hit harder than others. And every market's different, right? It's not all about this, but you can clearly tell who was a better operator and who was not, right? As to how much they were impacted, maybe. So that those tools like this are obviously critical to your business, right?
Oh yeah, they are. And going past CRMs, getting into other systems, whether it's your e-signature system or your file management, if you're keeping pictures, if you're keeping, how are you keeping your documents, your contracts, all of those are so vital. And if you don't have everything together and processed and everybody on your team doing it the same, or if you're a one-man show, one-woman show, if you're not doing it the same every time, when there's a question 3 months from now or 3 years from now, you're going to have no clue.
Yeah.
So it all ties in the same.
Yeah, for sure. And stuff like, and talk about, and I don't know exactly what's inside of your new CRM. I have some ideas. And I know part of the problem is probably some of the pain that you've felt is not different than a lot of real estate investors is I have a CRM, but I have a separate task management tool and I use a separate phone system and I store my files in Dropbox and stuff's all over. And we make it work because honestly, when I first started, we were using spreadsheets and like hard drives or whatever, just regular hard drives, not even Dropbox. And so a lot of these tools are just converging, right? So talk about the importance of task management and then some pros and cons of having something that's kind of integrated versus, an additional tool.
Yeah. And when you said spreadsheets, that made me remember when I first started full time 6 years ago, my first CRM was Excel until I had like 20 houses. And I probably had 100 columns just to get every little data point, and drove my wife Amy crazy. But that's what I used at that point and outgrew it quickly. But having different systems, we have our CRM that we use now. And then once we get a property under contract, most CRMs kind of drop off because that's their focus is the customer relationship. I know probably most people that I know use Asana for task management.
Yep.
It's a real popular one. I've used several throughout the years. I've used Rike, I've used ClickUp. Lots of them, they all have their own strengths and weaknesses, but it's a heck of a lot better than just trying to write down on Post-it pads what you need to do, what the process is here, what the process is there. And they keep you. Amy hates it when I say this, but if somebody gets hit by a bus and they're not able to come in today, they're not able to come in tomorrow, they're sick. That is one of the tools that can be used to keep your system running. Now you need to have documented procedures, which you alluded to a little bit ago, but task management gets your team able to see what needs to happen right now and what is important.
Yeah. And if somebody's out, they just look up that person's tasks, right? Like, hey, so-and-so's out or they got hit by a bus. Like I need to reassign these tasks. And it's not just in their notebook or on Post-it notes on their desk or in their head, even worse, right? It's in a system where everybody can see it.
Right. And then Zapier is an amazing tool. Zapier can link so many different softwares and tools and do things and provide automations, but it can't do everything.
Right.
And that's really where having some other ability to integrate comes in as a very useful tool.
And it breaks. We use the heck out of it for sure across all of our businesses, but it breaks. We've had times where it broke before the zaps weren't happening. And it got sent to somebody else's email that there was a problem, and it wasn't even in their inbox. It was in like a spam folder or whatever. So we didn't even
Yep.
know that something had broken down, and you find out, a week or 2 weeks later that that's a problem, right?
Yeah, that's dealing with the lead. That lead's gone probably.
Yeah.
So lost money right there.
Yeah. So let's talk about file management. So I think we have 7 terabytes of data in our Dropbox folder at this point. But we do a lot of video, and there's a lot of other things that we do too, right? But it's a beast, right? And even when we were flipping a lot of houses, we still use Dropbox mostly, but it was a separate system. So we would just put a link to that folder from Dropbox in our CRM so that you could click it and link to it. But they weren't really connected. Like we had to clearly go out into another system. So just talk about, some of the evolution that's happened there with file management and CRMs.
Yeah, file management CRMs. I mean, when you earlier talked about having an external hard drive, that's what people did. And if you lost the hard drive, or if it was stolen out of your car, or if got stolen out of your office, the data was just gone. So
Yeah.
having the ability to use things like Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive or any of those online providers are really amazing. And there are some softwares that provide links to kind of open it automatically, so you don't have to copy a link, put it in a note, go through, find the note. But the next evolution of file management really is getting outside of just folders. I'm going to take these files, put them in this folder for this property, but being able to badge those files. So an example is different people in the business need to look at different kinds of files. We need to look up closing documents. They're trying to look up a bunch of closing documents, let's say. Instead of having to go into every folder and look for closing docs, if you have the ability to file badge or badge those files, kind of like a tag, it's easy for them to pull up purchase closing docs, sale closing docs, pre-purchase inspection pictures, after the work is done, things relating to the seller, just whatever the cases are. And that makes being able to pull that information up a lot easier and a lot faster for people.
Yeah. That's critical to have access to that without. And the worst is when it's another system and then you have to reset a password, or you can't log into that system for some reason, and you're like, this one's working, this one's not. It's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, inevitably when that happens is when you need it right now, or somebody's standing in front of you, and you're just like, oh, I feel like such an idiot because I can't get my computer to work.
Yeah.
And people empathize with that, but at the same time, we're professionals. We're operating businesses. We need to be able to do things efficiently and on time.
Yep. Let's talk just briefly about kind of reporting, right? So I think some of the CRMs over the past couple of years have created some reporting dashboards. Like Podio notoriously does not have great reporting inside of it, right? Certainly like visual type stuff. And a lot of us are visually driven. But just being able to know, like a lot of our systems have the data in there, but it's just the reporting is lacking in terms of being able to make quick decisions on seeing what exactly is going on or what the trends are or things like that, without exporting stuff to Excel or some other system and trying to analyze it, like just kind of real-time reporting. Like talk about how that's evolved over the past, year or two, a couple of years.
Oh yeah, it's evolved a lot. Most systems have their default reports. This is what you can see. This is what KPI you can track. Systems are starting to evolve now, and you see this in Salesforce, where you can create your own reports based on whatever metrics you want. It could be leads received in this time frame by campaign or whatnot, and being able to adjust those so they actually apply to your company is really where the reporting industry is going to now, opposed to, I'm the software developer, this is the report you should have, these are the metrics that you need, that were popular 10 years ago or 5 years ago. People being able to operate their business differently. There's people who are wholesalers and they don't do rentals, they don't flip, they don't do anything else. That's fine, but they have a different focus on their metrics than a flipper, a landlord, somebody who does all of it. They all look at different things. And then when you're looking at a team, you really need to focus in on the people or the groups and be able to see what is important for you. A company that does a lot of cold calling needs to have that readily available.
Right.
And then being able to sync the data from the cold calling software and the CRM and actually extract and put those together that's where stuff really becomes difficult. But again, bringing stuff together into one system makes it a lot easier, so you can see all that information together.
Yeah. Yeah. Even and on the marketing side too, being able to see like what's your ROI on specific marketing channels. I think most people at best are looking at it across the whole business. And it's like
Mhm.
there's a lot of noise inside there if you put all your channels together. And people would make very different decisions if they knew what the return on ad spend was for one channel versus another, or even how different salespeople on your team are performing against one
Mhm.
another, right? It's easiest, I guess, to look at it as a whole, but there's clearly usually a lot of noise inside of there, right?
Yep. And there's a time to look at it as a whole, but there's also a time to drill down and see a little bit more detail.
Yeah,
Something that I've always wondered is when, let's say mail, somebody gets the mail piece. There's no way to, there are ways if you get down to changing your phone numbers very, very often, but it's hard to know when they actually receive that postcard.
right.
If you change your phone number every month, that could conceivably give you that ability, but not trying to go into that far of a
That creates a lot of other
realm.
problems. Yeah,
Yeah. When you get into web leads or any other kind of inbound or outbound, it's important to know when that lead was actually received or generated and how much you spent at that time. Because most of the time people just go off of, okay, I closed 7 deals this month and I spent X number of dollars on marketing. Great. Okay. But none of those marketing dollars actually went towards these 7 deals you closed this month.
yeah.
Um,
That was
so
advertising
that,
dollars from a prior period that fed them to you, and you finally closed them, right?
right. And
Yeah,
so being able to, over time, be able to see back where those trends are, not just when you're closing, is very valuable and can save you a lot of money, make you a lot more efficient.
yeah. And another example of that is sometimes people try a channel and then they cut it off too soon and then they start to get deals from
Mhm.
it, but they've already canceled it, right? It's like, well, that kind of cash conversion cycle on that advertising, maybe it's 6 months, like, and who
Mhm.
cares if it's still a great return, right? But you need to be able to see over time, like, hey, I made an investment. It's like farming, right? Like I made an investment way back when, and I didn't
Mhm.
harvest that until here. And a lot of real estate investors are so short sighted. They're just like, I tried this thing and it didn't work. And so I just stopped it. And it's like, well, did you give it enough time for it to actually work? Right.
Yeah, and I think that really comes down to two things. One, them being short-sighted and impatient, which, hey, lots of entrepreneurs are. Most of us are very impatient,
Yeah.
make quick decisions. But also, I think a lot of times it comes down to cash flow. If they've got plenty of cash flow, they're not worried about that 5,000, that 10,000, 20, whatever, $2,500, whatever it is.
Yeah.
They're not as worried about that. If they're pushed for cash, they're really focused on what's working now, but that's detrimental to them. We've
Yeah.
always, anytime we've started something new or made a major change, we've given it 6 months.
Yeah.
We let it ride, wait 6 months, see if it works or not, because it does take a while sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've heard me say this phrase many times over the past couple of years. You got to play the long game. If you want to win at this, you've got to
Yep.
give things time to work out or not. Right.
Yep.
Um,
And I pretty much everybody I know is stories of somebody calling on a postcard or letter that they sent out a year or two before.
yeah.
And people really do hang on to those. It's kind of a surprising / amazing to
Yeah.
me, but
Yeah.
they do.
And the power of follow up. Like sometimes we've
Mhm.
all gotten deals that we generated years ago and they finally came around. They just, something happened. And it wasn't that the marketing didn't work or did work. I mean, it did work if you get the deal. It's just that the timing wasn't right for that person yet. And we all know a lot of the types of people that we buy houses from, they've had distress or situations in their life for probably a long period of time. And it's just like the straw that broke the camel's back eventually. Like it didn't make sense a year ago, but this thing just happened and I'm ready now, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Things change.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about kind of systems, but like more like processes, like things that are really important to have documented in your business. For this is kind of the way you do things, right? Most people would kind of refer to it as you create an SOP or a standard operating procedure for how
Mhm.
we do this thing. And the great thing about our business as real estate investors, especially if you're wholesaling or rehabbing or own rentals, is there's not a ton of different processes. There's some very specific things that we do over and over and over again. So to have them documented, really isn't that hard. But let's kind of jump in first to, I guess, the top of the funnel, like lead intake, like receiving a lead, how you process it, and talk about, a little bit about the importance of that and having that documented, and maybe some tips you could share for how people can document these things if they haven't
Okay.
yet.
Yeah, I mean that's your first true contact with a lead. So it's more important than people realize. There are times that we've had to have overflow calls or emergency situations go to a service that answers the phone. And I'm not saying anything bad about them. They're trying to service a lot of different clients and whatnot, but it's better than going to voicemail. So doing the best you can, answering those calls live, number one, is paramount. And then having a system of what happens if you don't answer it in 3 rings or whatever? Does it roll to somebody else on your team? Once you receive the call, there needs to be a system or process of what that call includes. You know, are you going to get their name? Are you going to get their address? What's going on? Some people ask for the mortgage balance. We don't ask for the mortgage balance. That's just something unique with us. But have that documented. That way, when you bring on somebody new, when the staff changes, there's documentation there so people know how to do it, but also to reaffirm with your current staff what needs to be done. You don't want, you know, you have a staff meeting and, you know, hey, I really need you to find this specific thing out. It could be, you know, when COVID started, will they let us in the house? That was a very important piece of information. If you don't document that, and if it's not being reviewed, you can document it. If nobody opens it, nobody looks at it, it's useless. Right. But they need to review it, and then that'll remind them that they need to continue to get that. We've all been told something by a boss before, and we know it's important, we need to do it, and we don't do it, not because necessarily we don't want to, or we're trying to, you know, push back against the man or something. We just forget, we get in our own routines, and that process needs to be a routine of itself.
Yeah. And when you're a business owner, like, one of the worst things you can do is just have it in your head, right? I mean, if you're listening to this, and we've all been there, where we're playing a super active role in the business, probably doing acquisitions and things as well. And you know how you do it, and it's in your head. And then you complain that you need to get out of that and somebody else needs to take the role, but you've never documented how to do it. And it's just trapped in your head, right? And so I think for folks that are listening to this, you need to document these things. Even if it's you doing it, you should, like, back to the getting hit by a bus comment, like, assume you get hit by a bus. Like, what good is your business going to be to your family if a bunch of stuff's trapped in your head? And even if you work with your spouse, like, you know, you don't want their only option to be to shut it down necessarily, to shut the business down, right? Is like, plug somebody else into those spots, and here's how we do it, right?
Right. And there's lots of ways to document. You could, you know, old school, put it in a Word doc or a Google Doc. You can map out your processes on something like Visio or Lucid charts. Lucid is what we use, and I love it because you can link in other things to those little actions on the workflows. You can record videos, have them available for your staff. Something I've found out recently, if let's say you have your CRM in the video and there's addresses being displayed, even if it's private, Google is pulling those off of YouTube and saying that you're bullying people. That was fun. We had an internal training video get taken down by YouTube, but you can record these things. And then something that I learned at the last Fuel was taking ChatGPT and turning, you know, those videos or those recordings that you have, you can turn those into SOPs with ChatGPT pretty easily.
Yeah, wow.
Just get the transcription, put it in there, tell it to turn it into an SOP, and it'll bulletize the information out for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. That's something that I have not really paid much attention to because I've got a million things going on, but I know it's revolutionary. So we could probably go down a whole rabbit hole about where AI is going for sure, right? But let's not go there. Well, some other processes, some other really important things are, you know, you talked about lead intake and kind of processing, but attending appointments, how you make offers, processing buy contracts, different processes for exit strategies, like how you wholesale, how you build your buyers list, how you keep that fresh, how you rehab, your rehabbing processes, your budgeting processes, on and on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything that we do needs to be documented. It needs to be an actual process first. It needs to not just be shooting from the hip. I mean, our generation, we grew up seeing Rambo hit the M60, mow everybody down, hold the M60 at his hip, firing. Yeah, in reality, there's no way that would happen because it's not going to be effective. Same goes for running your business. It needs to be a repeatable process. We all make jokes about McDonald's, and their quality aside, they have a process that people go through. And that is one of the things that psychologically makes people go back to McDonald's, is they know what to expect.
Yeah.
Customers on the same side, whether it's a buyer or seller, even if it's partners, if you're working with title companies or a separate TC company or contractors, having that process makes it easier for them because they know what to expect.
Yeah.
So we have processes for everything that you went through on there, process of getting contracts, going through appointments, making offers. That also makes it easier to train people. Everybody on the team is going to bring a little bit of flair, a little bit of difference, in their personality or their skill set, and they can apply things to it, and they can have some ownership of those minor things, but you have the main steps for them to go through.
Right.
Some of the things that have evolved for us over time are, we're selling a flip and there's a few repairs that are negotiated after we've got it under contract. Okay, not a big deal, it happens, but it's really bad when you forget. You assume somebody else has done it, or you assume that it's been done because the contractor told you it was done, but nobody's gone to verify.
Right.
Well, I thought you were going to verify. No, I thought you were. You did last time. Have it documented. Have a process of how to do it. Will save you face, save you money, most of all, and save you time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and a lot of, you mentioned Asana earlier. We're kind of power users of Asana and have been for a long time, but you can have dependencies inside of there too, right? There's like tasks that somebody has to do, but there's dependencies on that. Like you can't do that until this is done, and unless everybody can see what everybody else has to do, it's just turn it into like a production line, right? And everybody knows what their role is and who's responsible for what. If somebody gets hit by a truck, then you just reassign those tasks to somebody else, right?
Yep. And then there's of course follow-up, and every team does it different, but we have a meeting every week where we go through the status of all of our properties, whether they're under contract, in rehab, or for sale, just to make sure we haven't missed something.
Yeah.
Because somebody may get a little bit happy and get ahead of themselves and mark a task closed, or who knows? There's all kinds of scenarios that happen.
Sure.
But keeping everybody on the same page helps as well. So that's a big part of our overall process.
Yep. Well, good stuff, Jon. Thanks for sharing all this with us today. Good. I think, and for a lot of folks, I don't think there's anything we shared here today that people are like, I never thought about that. But hopefully it's just one of those things that you realize, like, gosh, I really need to get on the ball with documenting some of this stuff. Or maybe you've done it in the past and you need to refresh because you do things totally differently. That's a process in and of itself, right? Is reviewing your processes because we're constantly changing and evolving and using different tools or changing exit strategies. Like there's a lot of things that we evolve, and somebody has to keep those fresh, right?
That's right. I have to be reviewing them and making sure that they're up to date. And then again, making sure that people are reviewing them and following them.
Yep. Good stuff, Jon. Would you mind, you've been a part of the Investor Fuel Mastermind for a long time now. Like how long has it been? A little bit over 4 years or so?
About 3.5, I think.
3.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Would you mind just sharing your experience as being a part of the Investor Fuel family?
Yeah, of course. A couple of things with Investor Fuel. On the business side, on the professional side, it's been huge for us. Being around not just like-minded people, but people are in the same industry that actually want to help. We're not there beating our chest, trying to overinflate what we're doing. When we have failures, we're sharing them, and we're getting feedback from the other fuel fam on those failures. And so that has been just amazing. I mean, there's even somebody here in Oklahoma City that's a fuel member as well. And, we openly share things. We're not trying to hoard that. We have an abundancy mindset. On the personal side, Investor Fuel has been very wonderful as well. I mean, we've made some great friends through Investor Fuel that we wouldn't have otherwise. We do some activities outside of the quarterly meetings with Fuel sometimes, and those have been wonderful. When we got some bad medical news on one of our daughters a few years ago, something that really cheered her up was she got a little package from the Fuel fam, and it was a blanket and had some inspirational things on it, and she still sleeps with that blanket. And that's been about 3 years. So Investor Fuel goes more than just business. It is fuel your business, fuel your life. It really brings everything together, and it's been amazing for us.
That's great. Well, glad you guys are a part of it, and it's kind of, no pun intended, fueled by folks like you that are big givers that share a lot, and you just understand, like, the more I give, the more I get. And I think folks like you and Amy are huge givers. And if anybody, I know that of all of our members, if anybody called you guys and said they needed help, you'd find a way to help them one way or another if you could, right? And that's just kind of how
Yep.
that's how the whole thing works. It's just like this circle of people helping each other and moving forward and inspiring each other and picking each other up off the ground if we have to, like whatever it is, right?
Yep. And there's days we all need that.
Yeah, any of those things. Yeah, I can share some days. Some days I need to be picked up off the ground.
Yep.
Just how it goes. So,
Yep.
John, thanks again, buddy. If folks wanted to connect with you, you've got a lot of stuff, going on. What are some ways that they can connect with you or reach out?
Best ways to connect with me are just reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm on both as the flipping IT guy. Got caught for not putting a G in there not too long ago, but you can reach me on either of those platforms. And if you want to be included on some information on Pete as it comes out or as it gets closer to coming out, you can go to thepete, THEPETE.io, and put in your email address. And when we have some information to share about Pete and becoming publicly available, we'll let you know.
Awesome. I'm excited to see that. I know you guys have, honestly, I remember when we were in Yellowstone, which we just got back from Yellowstone 2 months ago. We went there right when COVID hit. That was about 3 years ago, and you guys were working on it then. So I know it's been years in the making, labor of love. And so looking forward to seeing what you guys put out.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody, hopefully you got some good insights from today. I mean, at the end of the day, this is the time where you need to be a better operator in your business. If you've been in real estate, and part of the problem is the margins are high, there's lots of opportunities to make money, right? And that covers up a lot of sins sometimes. And I think one of the changes that's happened over the past couple of years, or certainly over the past 6 months since the market has shifted here, is that the covers kind of got pulled back and it told you whether you were a good operator or whether you need to do better. And so we can all always do better. And the best part is if you can build these things during a market shift, you're going to be that much better of an operator and be that much more profitable when the market does shift back and is basically a seller's market again. So, John, thanks again for sharing some insights, buddy.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, buddy. And everybody, if you haven't learned about Investor Fuel yet, go to investorfuel.com. You can learn more about us, what we're all about, learn when our upcoming meetings are. If you're interested in learning more, you can schedule a call there. No obligation. We'd love to just talk to you and see if you're a fit for us and we're a fit for you. And if we are, we can talk about next steps. So go to investorfuel.com to learn more. Until then, we'll see you on the next show. Are you an active real estate investor? If so, and you want to latch on to the power of surrounding yourself with over 100 of the nation's leading real estate investors, all committed to building stronger businesses and living richer, fuller lives, you should jump on a call with us to learn more about Investor Fuel. Simply visit investorfuel.com to get started.